Hello, so this week I'm going to be working on the petticoat. I'm kind of working on the smock concurrently, but by the time that this video is up, the smock will be done. Petticoats in the Tudor period are very different from what we think of petticoats today. The petticoats that we think of today really just go on the bottom half of the body, and they're just a skirt that helps fill out with volume and maybe add some warmth. Tudor petticoats are made up of a bodice and a skirt, and the bodice provided support and was kind of the predecessor of what we think of today as stays and corsets. So according to the Tudor Tailor book, there are two options for petticoats at this time. There's kind of the more full-bodied plus a skirt kind of petticoat, and then there's another one that looks a little bit more like what we think of as petticoats now with just the skirt, and then it's got kind of like an underbust suspender skirt kind of thing. And this one came about to reduce the bulk on the torso. I'm going to be opting for the one that has a full bodice because my dress is going to be pretty heavy, so I'm going to need that extra support to hold all of the weight of that velvet. With the petticoat and the kirtle, that should give enough stiffness and support to like keep everything up and like where it should be without compromising too much on any added bulk. I honestly had a really hard time finding any examples of petticoats in like paintings or anything, so I was really heavily trusting the Tudor Tailor and like the information that I found on YouTube from other creators. I found a few paintings on a blog site showing these kinds of petticoats, so I'm gonna take that and run with it. The one that I really liked was this kind of orangey rust colored petticoat, and it laces up the front. It also looks like it has some ties on the shoulder straps for sleeves to tie on too, so that might be something that I consider since it does look like Frau has 2 layers of sleeves. I was able to get this really pretty like dusty rose brown colored wool from Burnley and Trowbridge, so I'm really excited to use that. I was considering making matching undergarments for this again like I did with Alice. However, this is a little bit more in line with something that I might actually wear as like an outfit, but this will look kind of similar to like the cottagecore style dresses that are popular right now, so I figured I should make it in a color that I will actually wear in real life since I don't actually wear much blue. It seems like I make a lot of blue costumes even though I don't really wear any blue in real life. The very first thing I'm going to do is prepping this wool to be sewn. So because this is one of the closest layers to my body, I want to be able to wash it in the future, and that's just like hand washing. It does need to be prepped and steamed before doing anything with it so that when I do wash it in the future it doesn't shrink, especially because it's going to have layers of canvas and it's probably going to have some lining in it. I don't want the wool to shrink at a rate that's faster than any of its interlinings or linings, because then it'll make everything look puckery and sad, right? The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to roll this fabric onto a cardboard tube. While I'm rolling it, I'm going to be pressing it really well, and to make sure that I get all of the shrinkage out of it ahead of time, I'll be taking a spray bottle of water and spritzing it down and then using the hot iron to steam all of that water out. I can't just roll it up while it's still hot and might be still damp, so I'll be taking a fan to cool it off and make sure that any of the moisture is really gone, because if you roll up fabric that still has moisture and heat in it, it can mold, which is not what we want. So that's a really important step for any wool that you might want to be able to wash in the future. So definitely don't skip that if you're going to be making something similar. But let's move on to something a little bit more fun, and let's look at the pattern. Okay, so we have the Tudor Tailor for my pattern again. I got basically all of my patterns from here since it seems to be the only really good source for undergarment pattern. I don't really want to do this kind of like low cut petticoat. I don't think it really gives enough, I don't know, control and stabilization. And while the kirtle will be giving another layer of support over top of this petticoat, it seems to have been more common to build up multiple layers of support since we weren't using boning at this time. The kirtle and petticoat patterns are basically interchangeable for these two. I've got this painting here, which is a detail picture from San Fiacre? I don't know. It's from a painting by Alessandro Allori in 1596. And I found this on elizabethancostume.net as an example, among others, of women at the time wearing petticoats. And as they had said, it's really hard to find paintings of petticoats because they're worn under gowns, they're undergarments, and the only people who wore them visibly are, I don't know, they wore them in their homes. I guess this woman is ailing, so she's wearing hers on the outside because she's sick, and then like the website says quote unquote strumpets wear them visibly. So because of that, most of my research has been done watching how other people make their petticoats from this time period and looking at the Tudor Tailor book, because it's really hard to find any kind of extant garment of this type. This is the bodice that I'm going to be using. It's the kirtle and petticoat bodice. They have an option for making it more pointed in the front, which I definitely want to do because that's what looks like is happening in my painting. For the skirt, there's two options: to make a more shaped skirt and to make a more just gathered skirt. This says skirt panels, plain or shaped, cut one of each for early styles or 2 plain for later styles. I think I'm going to do the one of each, and it'll still give me like a really big skirt, short. But it does look like in the painting that the front is less gathered and more of a shaped skirt from what we can see under her apron that's falling off. I think that first, before I cut into my very expensive wool, I'm going to be making a mock-up. I'll just make a mock-up of the bodice just to make sure everything fits and it really is supportive enough at the size that I'm cutting it at. The skirts are just so big, they're gonna just get gathered on however they land. So those will be fine. So I'm just gonna do a bodice mock-up. Let's put that together and then I'll see you guys in the fitting. Okay, first fitting for the new costume. I'm mostly just fitting the bodice today, or I am only fitting the bodice today, so I'm gonna go ahead and do that. I am wearing my Alice chemise rather than the smock I'm making for this costume because the smock is still in the process of being put together. So this has no boning in it at all. The front is 2 layers of coutil and the back is 1 layer of coutil. I think because it does have a point in the front, it might need boning to support those grommet holes. Okay, we are all laced in. I don't actually know how to tie off this lace at the top, so I'm just gonna toss that over my shoulder. This is fine. I think it looks really good. I think I was wrong. I don't need extra boning in there. I think this holds its shape really well. The actual garment is gonna have a couple layers of linen canvas stiffened with hide glue, more layers of stuff, I guess. Hopefully that'll be enough. I can't really see anything that I super want to change. I think that the placement of these straps is really good. Like, they're really far out there, which I wanted because it looks like basically all of her collarbone is showing in the illustrations. It's like very off shoulder, so I like how far off shoulder this is. They feel really snug on there, so that's great. This doesn't look like it's gonna like buckle that much. Like, there's a little bit of like bowing at the very bottom here, but you know, I have a stomach, so like that's gonna happen. I don't see much creasing. There's maybe a little tiny bit of creasing under the bust, but I don't even think that's really creasing. I think that's just where my bust is. When it's in a wool, I think the softness of that fabric will really help. I'm pushing these back up on my shoulders. I think it's because they're so close to the edge of my shoulder that I'm just kind of like subconsciously pushing them back up, but I don't actually think they're going anywhere. I think the back also looks really good. Again, like small amount of buckling here. I don't think will be present in the actual thing. And then the side looks fine. I think that maybe I need to raise it a little bit just in the back here. So that looks like it's about a ½ an inch. Because you can see like that it's buckling a little bit where it's hitting my waist. I'll raise it a ½ an inch from about 1 inch past the side seam all the way around. And then I really like the point. I think the point's very cute. Oh, I guess, okay, the strap is falling down. I don't know. I still think it'll be fine, so I'm just gonna leave it. I think from the side it looks really good. I don't want it to be too low in the front either because like she isn't like, I don't know, she doesn't have that much cleavage showing. So like maybe if I pull this up, it'll be good. Oh yeah, I think that's plenty low enough. I don't think that I want this to be any lower. So I think this is great. Yay! Awesome, success. I don't actually have to make that many alterations. I'm just gonna be making the waist a little bit shorter. Let's go cut fabric. one of the layers that goes into this petticoat is a layer of linen buckram. So you can see this kind of not so great photo in here. The interlining is made up of calico, which is British speak for muslin, and a layer of linen canvas, and then a layer of linen buckram. The linen buckram is not really something you can find anymore, so I'm going to be making my own. To do that, you basically have to rub glue all over a piece of linen. I'm going to be using Hide glue that I got off of Amazon because I wasn't really sure where else to buy Hide glue. I'm going to be hydrating that and like activating that myself. The reviews on the liquid Hide glue were not very good. Hide glue is basically, it is what it sounds like. It's glue made from hides. Not the most pleasant of glues, I guess. I've got my instructions that this came with, and it's not very well printed, so it's hard to read. That you have to soak your glue granules in cold water and allow them to like really hydrate and become puffy for a couple of hours. It says minimum of 2 hours. And then once they're fully hydrated, you can mix it into hot water. Once the glue is hydrated and like activated from hot water, then I can soak the linen in the glue. I'm not gonna completely soak it, I'm just gonna kind of paint it on, and hopefully that's good enough because I want it to be stiff, but I don't want it to be like cardboard. This is my kind of bootleg setup here. I have a hot plate and that's plugged in and it's on, so it's heating. I have a pot, obviously, and it's got an egg carton in it to keep the plastic container with the glue in it from touching the bottom because I don't want the plastic to melt. But I do want it to like be thoroughly submerged like this. I poured a little bit of hot water into the glue mixture that had been soaking because it seemed a little dry. I think that's helping a little bit. I want the water bath to be between 110 and 150, so I'm aiming for around like 120, 130 because that seems to be a good low estimate. They said that if you get above 150, then the glue stops working so well. Not that I'm going to be sticking anything to anything else, but you know, I just want to be careful. I'm waiting for that to heat up right now. This is not the most effective way to do this. Oh, that was a cat. Hello?
Such amazing.
She went in? Basically, I'm just waiting for this to heat up. Okay, baby man. And then I'm just gonna try to paint it on with a paintbrush, I guess. I think that sounds correct. Well, we'll see. So I'll paint one layer on it, let it dry. Hopefully that'll be stiff enough. If not, then I'm gonna have to do another layer. We are at 118, so I think that's good. Oh, 120, 121, 122. It's going between 122 and 121, so I think that's good. I don't know if this stuff is gonna wash out at all, so I'm just gonna use a paintbrush that I don't care about so much. Maybe I should be wearing gloves. gotten the bodice mostly done. I've left the bottom heart open so that I can attach the skirt to here, cover it with the lining. I wanted to explain a little bit how I did some of this stuff. I put the linen buckram layer in between the linen and the muslin interlining, so you can't see any of that now. I've done a tailor's cross stitch along all of the seam allowances to make sure they stay really nicely in place. So that's along the bottom edge, the top edge, and on these side seams as well. I didn't do that on the arm's eye because I bound that in the same wool as the outer part. I also reinforced these corners here in order to get everything to lay flat. Obviously, like, I have to slice into these. That makes these corners, the two at the arms and then the one at the center back, really weak points. So I did a couple stitches over it to make sure that like it's reinforced and stays nice and strong. And I did that once while I was going and catching all of the seam allowance like this. And then I did it again once I was getting the lining in there with a slip stitch, just to make sure that both layers were really sturdy and secure. Next is the skirt. I've done a center front opening at 10 inches here, a binding along here too. And I did that kind of like the continuous bound placket, but instead of making it so that it's visible on both sides, folded it so that it's not really visible on the front and it's only visible on the back here. I'm gonna do a bar across the bottom here where it's at its weakest point. Once I've put the skirt pieces together, I can add the binding on the bottom. I bought some twill tape from Burnley and Trowbridge, and I'm just gonna treat it like it's single fold bias tape. I'm not gonna be finishing any of the seams or putting a lining into the skirt. I didn't want it to be bulkier than necessary, and I didn't really have anything that I thought would be a suitable lining, and I didn't think I needed a lining really in this. So I'm gonna leave it unlined. This fabric really just doesn't fray out at all. Like, you can see that I'm picking at it. After this is on there, then I can add lacing holes, and that's the whole petticoat. So it's a pretty quick project once everything is cut out and prepared. Excuse me. I'm just gonna keep going, and that should be the last talking interruption that I make until this project is done. Hello. Oh, floppy girl. You really like that wool, don't you? Is this your fabric now? Yeah. Hello? I love how this petticoat turned out. I think it makes a really cute dress. There's a little bit of buckling in just the general torso in the front, and I don't know if that's because my body has curves, obviously, so like it's not a flat plane, whereas the canvas is obviously a flat piece of fabric that has been stiffened. So I don't know if there's a way to fix that or if that's just how life is gonna be, but I'm not too bothered by it. I think obviously it could be fixed if I did more shaping through the front of the torso, if I had stuck a seam like kind of on the princess line, but that's not really how these things look, so I opted to go with the really minimal on the side seams and then an opening in the center front, and then the back is completely just one piece, so there's very few seams. I think that it looks really cute regardless. I love the little braided hem tape that I got from Burnley and Trowbridge. It's the same place that I got the fabric, but it's so cute. I love the color. I'm actually really happy with the whole color generally. I wanted more of like a burnt orange, kind of the color of the tape, or like a mustardy yellow. I couldn't find any of that, so I kind of just crossed my fingers when I ordered this. I hoped that it would be something good. When I got it, it was a little bit muted, but it's really grown on me. I'm trying to make my undergarments a little bit more functional for my everyday life. Like Alice, all of my undergarments were really cute, but they're not really something I can wear just normal. I mean, I could, but like they're not something that fits into the wardrobe that I like to wear every day. Whereas these two pieces do. So hooray for that. Trying to have more functional clothing in my life than just pretty stuff I look at occasionally. I think probably my only issue with this pattern is that the shoulders are really far off, so they do fall off quite a bit. I didn't think it was going to be a problem, but it is falling off a little bit. So it makes it hard to lift my arms. This is about how high my arms go without straining against the fabric, which like once I'm wearing the full costume, who knows if I'm going to be able to lift my arms because of everything else anyways, so it's probably not a huge deal. I love the amount of volume in the skirt. I ended up using the full fabric width for the rectangular panel rather than what the Tudor Tailor pattern diagram suggested, so I was able to get a little bit more volume in the skirt. I think it looks really cute that way. I'm happy I did it. So it did take a little bit more fussing with the pleats to make sure they all matched up, since I could no longer follow the pleating diagram that they gave. But I think it was worth it, and it wasn't really too much more effort. I'm wearing a bra with this right now because I threw this on to do the outro because I wanted you guys to see it one more time. But I will not be wearing a bra with this in the future because this is plenty supportive on its own. I guess this is a little TMI, but like I find it really uncomfortable to not wear a bra, and also to wear bras. I like sports bras a lot, but I think this is a really good option and is like really comfortable for having enough support without feeling like constricting. I just don't like it when things are right up against my ribs, so this is a really good alternative to that because there's no pressure directly under my bust at my ribs. So aside from that, getting a little off track, eyelets I had a little bit of an issue with. I broke my awl making this. So going through all of these layers, I think there's 2 layers of wool because it gets folded back on itself, so there's 2 layers of this wool. There's a layer of cotton, potentially a second layer of cotton, and then there's a layer of muslin, a layer of linen, and then the layer of linen that has been stiffened to be linen buckram. So that's like 7 layers of fabric that I'm going through, and my awl was really cute awl, but it's not made of the hardest metal, so it kind of like was soft and squishy. I guess as soft and squishy as metal can be. The handle snapped, so I was able to still use it, but doing this project broke my awl, so that's not great. Also because my all broke and like I was struggling with it so much, my eyelet holes are a little bit smaller than I intended, so it is an effort to get my lacing cord through. And I went and bought an aglet press from Richard the Thread, and I bought aglets, so I put aglets on my cord, which makes it significantly easier to get it through the eyelet holes than if it was just a thread wrap cord. I don't think I would be able to get it through the holes if I just did a thread wrap cord. So having the metal is super helpful if you make your eyelets too small and it's just like barely too small but you can't get your cord through. I would really recommend getting metal aglets rather than using the shrink wrap tubing or a thread wrap. Being able to push it through, like some of these eyelet holes I have to literally hold it against the table and push down so the aglet will go through, which is not a great testament to my eyelet sewing abilities, but does make it so that it is possible for me to lace this regardless of my not so great eyelets. So I'm gonna end this video here. I really hope you guys enjoyed it. If you have any tips, tricks for doing eyelet holes, I would love to hear them. Please leave them in the comments. And if you want to see the next video in this series and the rest of the series generally, the next video is going to be covering the farthingale. Actually, my next video is going to be my LA fabric shopping holiday vlog. So that is going to be what's coming next rather than the farthingale, but the farthingale video is pretty much done. So that will also be coming, but in 2 weeks rather than 1. So I hope to see you guys in the future. If you want to see my future videos, please subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Okay, bye!